Welcome to the Yellowbrickhouse Fundraising Summit. Today is a very special day. We are sitting down with Chief Executive Officer of Yellowbrickhouse, Lorris Herenda. And this is a special honor for us as we are trying to help women and children that are suffering in family violence. I want to say special thank you for today and for being with us. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what does Yellowbrickhouse actually mean to you and thus for the community.
Absolutely. It's such a pleasure to be here today, Rose. Thank you for the invitation. It's an absolute pleasure for me to talk about Yellowbrickhouse. I've been with the organization now for just over 20 years. And Yellowbrickhouse provides life-saving services and prevention programs to meet the diverse needs of individuals, families, and communities impacted by violence and abuse. We've been in existence now since 1978, and I'm often asked, how prevalent is domestic violence or intimate partner violence or gender-based violence, or the three terms that we use interchangeably? When people hear about the stats, they're often shocked because people assume that it happens to a very small group of individuals, that it doesn't really have a huge impact in our society or in our community. But in fact, 1 in 3 Canadian women are living in a violent home with their children. And more than 50% of Canadian women have at least once experienced violence or abuse in their lives. So these statistics are staggering, and they are impacting women who are currently our neighbors, our friends, our sisters, our daughters, our colleagues. And as a society, we need to be able to have a conversation about domestic violence. We need to have a conversation about how we can change our society and the norms in our society to start walking and working towards eradicating violence in our community. And we need to get men involved in our conversation to become ambassadors, because domestic violence and intimate partner violence is not a woman's issue. It's everyone's issue. It impacts all of us in our community.
What services are offered by Yellowbrickhouse?
Yellowbrickhouse offers a wide array of services for abused women and their children. We're best known for our emergency shelters. We have 2 locations in York Region, offering 41 beds and 10 cribs. Pre-pandemic, both of the shelters were congregate living settings. However, during the pandemic, we secured some capital dollars to convert the shelters into family units. So each family that comes to Yellowbrickhouse shelters gets their own personal unit while they're escaping their violent homes. So we're still offering 41 beds and 10 cribs in a 13 family units between the 2 shelters. They're brought to us usually by police, or they're sent to us by hospital after they receive medical attention, or they're sent to us by community partners, or schools call us because the family needs a safe place to go to after they're escaping the violent home. They basically come to us with the clothes that they're wearing. They have very little personal possessions. So when they come to the shelter, they're provided with, change of clothing, toiletries, bedding. We help them set up in their family unit. We ensure that their dietary needs are met, and we get to work with them. We provide crisis intervention from a trauma-informed lens. We set goals with them in terms of whatever their individual needs are. Is it housing needs? Is it family court support needs? Is it immigration support that they need? Mental health? Whatever, it's addressed for the abused woman and her children to help them recover from the impact of trauma. On average, they stay about 2 months in our shelter. We work with them very proactively. They're shelter counselors. And we are very proud of the fact that most of our frontline staff speak at least one other language, so we're able to provide our services in over 36 languages currently, which is very helpful for women and children who have English as a second language or don't have any English skills to begin with. Once they leave our shelter, we continue to support women in the community, or we work with families who never use our shelter because our shelter beds are often full. And we provide them very similar services, such as individual counseling for women, individual counseling for children, group support for women and children, family court support, immigration coordination, transitional housing support, wraparound services to address whatever the family is facing and we help transition them into leading an independent life that's free of violence.
How does a shelter look like? What happens to me in a shelter? What do I need to have with me? Can you share some of that?
It's an excellent question, Rose, because for most people who are not working in the sector will not know what a shelter looks like. Or you might have some images in your mind thinking that, it's a cot in a gym and you're going to be questioned, are you going to be safe? Or are your possessions, if you have any, going to be protected? So I'd like to just start with saying that a shelter is a home and safety is our number one priority. And women will often tell us it's the first best night's sleep they've had in years since their abuse started. We make sure that the family units are very much like a regular family home. If you didn't know that a shelter was on a residential property, you wouldn't know it's a shelter. It's a regular home. It's filled with love and kindness. Women, as I mentioned before, they have their own family units. So they have their possessions that they bring with them, but usually they don't have much because it's a matter of crisis. It's not like the women pack their bags and could figure out, what to bring for this departure. It's usually because a violent situation occurred at home that she had to flee because her life was in danger. So all she cared about is getting her children, getting herself out of line of fire and leaving everything behind. So we are there to help her rebuild that with our community support and the donations that we receive.
So we talk about women and we talk about children at Yellowbrickhouse. Can you tell us a little bit about services that are there for men when it comes to shelter and support of domestic violence?
Great question. Although our mandate is to work with women and individuals that identify as women and their children, in providing them the whole array of services to deal with abuse and violence, we also get a lot of calls from men who are being abused. It's important to understand that we don't believe in support violence against anybody, and we will definitely support individuals that identify as male to find them appropriate resources in their local community to either get counseling or get shelter beds for themselves. We work very closely with our community partners who do work with men who are being abused in order for them to get the support that they need.
What is abuse?
Abuse is any behavior that's used to harm or threaten another human being. So it doesn't always have to be physical. There are different types of abuse. You can have emotional abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse is a big one. You can have spiritual abuse. Physical is not usually how abusive relationships begin. 40% of physical abuse starts during the woman's first pregnancy, and then it escalates from there. There are certain risk signs that women need to be aware of when they're in an abusive relationship. Risk signs that actually escalate over time and grow more dangerous. Stalking is a high-risk sign that may lead to eventual lethality. These are the pieces that we work with women that could call our crisis line confidentially. They don't have to disclose their name. Maybe they're not even aware they're being abused. They feel something is off, but they really don't know what to name it. They can call our crisis line and have a conversation with the counselor 24/7. They can call or text and get more information, get the resources, get the education that they need before they make a decision of where they can go with their little ones. And how can we support them through the school system? Or can we support them with employment skills or any other challenges that she may be facing?
Can you tell us what are some current challenges faced by Yellowbrickhouse?
The challenges that Yellowbrickhouse is faced with is lack of sustainable funding from the provincial government. We receive about 52% of our funding is from the provincial government, some from federal government and some from the Idaho GTA, but majority of it we need to fundraise to sustain our shelter beds. So 12 years ago, we opened a second Yellowbrickhouse shelter that had 19 beds, 16 beds and 3 cribs. And out of the 41 beds that we currently have, only 25 beds are actually funded. So we have to raise funds for 16 beds, which is at $50,000 per year. That's the cost per bed. And we have to understand that our bed capacity is not sufficient to meet the growing need of our growing population in GTA and across Ontario. So we would have to actually invest into adding more shelter beds. But as it is right now, we're struggling with raising funds to keep the existing level of shelter beds available to the community.
What I'm hearing from you, even with the new grants coming in, with the new people moving to suburb areas like Richmond Hill, Thornhill, Markham areas where you're mostly focusing on as well, there is a lot of women and children that are being abused that you cannot even take in because you don't have funding.
Unfortunately, that is our reality. At any given point, all our 13 family units are occupied. About 25% of the families that we serve are actually from Toronto. And the women couldn't get a shelter bed in Toronto, so they're moving to the next closest area that they can, which is in York Region. So even though we're situated in York Region, we work with families across Ontario. And all the shelters that are actually in Ontario will do the same thing. The challenge is that we're all at full capacity, and number of the shelters are also dealing with having unfunded shelter beds. That is the biggest challenge for our sector. We have to have an investment, both from provincial, municipal, and federal levels of government in sustainable services so we can help women and children who are fleeing a violent home. Otherwise, the outcomes can be deadly. Last year alone, we lost 67 women and children due to intimate partner violence. This year, the statistics are not looking much better. That's 67 families that have been shattered because these families had nowhere to go. The women's parents are alive, or her other children who were not killed. They are forced to continue living a life knowing that they lost their mother and they lost their siblings. We should not have that happening in our communities. We should have a safe space for anybody to be safe. It's a basic human right.
Has these been addressed to the provincial and federal, these issues? Have you addressed them to them?
The funding challenges that our sector faces have been brought to the government's attention on a repeated basis. My board and myself, we do a lot of public awareness and advocacy work, requesting support both from governments and individuals and corporations. And we're also facing difficult economic times right now too. So individual donors or corporations are looking at how to really balance their financial situation and have to make sacrifices sometimes where they were able to support us financially. They can't this year. And hopefully when the economy changes, that's going to change too. But it's quite a challenging time for us to know that our ability to keep those 16 beds open really depends on the economy or the generosity of our individual donors. Something that keeps me at night sometimes wondering, will we have to shelter bed down because we can't fund it?
It fills my heart with pain and sorrow because I can imagine what that means to a family, to children having to live in that kind of trauma and violence, knowing that they may not have their tomorrow, knowing that they might not have food at their table. And Yellowbrickhouse is helping to come up with funds. It is really important that we all work together in helping the Yellowbrickhouse.
Donate to your local shelter. Donate to Yellowbrickhouse. Keep us open. Keep the doors open because shelter beds and our services save lives.
I hear that Grey Birch Foundation will match all donations received starting from November up to $25,000. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We partner with Grey Birch Foundation for a matching gift campaign, and we're so grateful for them. So during the month of November, Women Abuse Prevention Month, every dollar that you donate, it has a double the impact and will be matched by Grey Birch Foundation up to $25,000. So we know with the matching campaign, we're going to be able to fund a shelter bed for a full year for a woman or child that needs to use it to save their life.
If Inventive Minds supports, as of November, $5,000, to the foundation, how much would that mean that we've been able to raise to help?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a double the impact. That means $10,000 because Great Birch Foundation will match it.
Thank you so much. So we want to say thank you for helping us, for helping women. I do want to kind of take this back and kind of self-reflect, share something in a safe space. I am a Yellowbrickhouse survivor. And in July 1st, 2000, Yellowbrickhouse helped me and my daughter. And to be able to sit here today and support other women who've gone through domestic violence means a lot to us. So at Inventive, I want to donate that.
Oh, thank you for your courage for sharing that information. It's heartwarming to hear you share that. I am so privileged to work in an organization with staff that have the commitment and compassion, but the families that I get to meet on a daily basis and the courage that they have, it's not an easy journey. It's the most difficult journey anybody can take. Imagining leaving your life behind, leaving everything that you work for behind, having your children in tow, you have no material possessions, and you have to rebuild your life while you're dealing with fear, you're dealing with violence, you're concerned about your safety. But these families, with our support, are able to see the light at the end of that tunnel. They're able to become successful, independent, and live without violence, which is ultimately what we are there for.
And that's
So congratulations.
That's what you've done for many women.
Thank you.
Thank you.